Hi! Today I have decided to talk about books where I have given the first instalment / maybe the first couple of instalments 5 stars, and then the sequel at some point along the series has been disappointing, and just kind of my thoughts and feelings on this, if that makes sense. So I have 5 examples here. A lot of them are ones that I read a while ago, and then there is one that actually inspired this whole video that I have kind of just finished reading, and I kind of wanted to talk about it, and that's how I made this, that's how I came up with the whole idea. So I'm going to go through my list as I have wrote notes, just like explaining which books are which. Some of these books I don't own anymore, so I'm not going to be showing you the books. I'm just going to talk about them. If you need to remember what they look like Google, Goodreads, you know, there's plenty of sources out there. But I will give you obviously the full titles and the authors. Anyways, so the first one I want to talk about is a book that is an old favourite, to the point where I can't get rid of the one that I 5-starred. But I did get rid of the rest of the series, and that is Kissed by an Angel by Elizabeth Chandler. Now, apparently, the book that I have that's called Kissed by an Angel, and it's like quite a big beefy book, is the 3 first instalments of this series, but put all in one book. But I've never seen it in that format. I don't think it ever got released in the UK like that. I think we just got it all in that one bind up. I think it was US that got it in 3 instalments. So I don't know the names of the 3 instalments that it's meant to be. I just know it's called Kissed by an Angel, and it's quite a big book, and it came out, I want to say, when I was about 15, something like that, and I absolutely just fell in love with it. It was one of my first kind of paranormal romances that I really got into, and it is a angel book, as you can probably tell by the title. It's about a couple who fall in love whilst they're both like everyday normal teenagers, and a tragedy gets in the way of their relationship. Slight spoiler, but not really, because I'm pretty sure it's on the blurb. But yeah, so I won't go into it too much, but what I will say is I read that bind up, absolutely fell in love with it, and then I want to say a few years later, they released more books in the series, and I was really excited for them, and I'm pretty sure I just ordered them, like, without even thinking about it. I just ordered them. Like, I want to say that I hadn't even read the first one of the next in line when I was already buying the next one, things like that. But they were called Ever Crossed, Ever After and Everlasting. I don't know if that's the right order. I don't know why I didn't write that bit down. I wrote them down in the order that I ranked them. So that's actually reverse order. So Ever Crossed and Ever After got 2 stars, Everlasting got 3 stars. But I just found them to be really disappointing, and that I kind of felt like the author was milking the cow dry, and that this story didn't need any more, because the big kind of the big plot that needed to be resolved in Kissed by an Angel was resolved. You know, it wasn't left on a cliffhanger as far as I remember. Maybe I'll have to reread it again, but no, I won't ever reread those sequels. I got rid of them. But I just didn't feel like this story needed more adding to it, and if I remember correctly, it kind of went, like, it's already quite a far-fetched premise anyway. I mean, angels aren't real, but it kind of went even more far-fetched, and it went to the point where within the realms of this world I just couldn't believe what was going on. From what I remember correctly, like, it was a long time ago, but yeah, I just remember thinking, this is just too ridiculous, and this is just getting that cash cow, and I wasn't enjoying reading them, even though I still read them all, because that was at the point where if I started a series, I had to finish it no matter how much I liked it or not. So like, that's how I ended up reading all the Fallen series. So next is Perfect Chemistry and Rules of Attraction by Simone. I gave 5 stars, and if I remember correctly, I read them pretty much back to back, if not actually back to back. Like, there may have been like a book or two in between them. So I was like really in on the hype. And the first one is definitely my absolute favourite, Perfect Chemistry. I remember crying when I finished that book. And again, these came out a while ago. Like, this series was really popular, like when I was first kind of realising that booktubing was a thing. So, you know, it's been a while. And what was the third one called? The third one was called Chain Reaction, and I remember getting it a little bit after I'd read the first two, and I gave it 3 stars, and it just felt like the story was being recycled a little too much. So Perfect Chemistry is very much an opposite attracts teen romance. And, you know, that's kind of the theme of all 3 books. And I'm sure that if I hadn't been so much on my hype of Perfect Chemistry, there could have been a chance that Rules of Attraction didn't get 5 stars either. But by the time I'd got round to reading the third one, I was just kind of over it. And whilst it wasn't bad, like, there was nothing wrong with it. It was very much a cute little romance, whatever. I just didn't care for these characters as much as I did other ones in previous books. So... And I think if I remember correctly, I can't remember which side of the relationship it was, but I'm pretty sure one of them was like just a pretty trashy human. Like, I'm pretty sure I didn't like character, and that's why it didn't read as fun as it did with the other ones. And it was a character I was supposed to like. I think that was in this case. Again, it was a while. So yeah, I ended up giving that one 3 stars. Next is Nightshade. And I remember being really into the first book. This is a werewolf series, and it's following a female alpha. Is she called an alpha? I feel like she is. Called Clare, remember that much. And it's kind of stereotypical paranormal romance. You know, there's a love triangle, and she's trying to figure out who she is and what she wants to do with her life, and what direction she's going to take might end up with what romance she picks, and you know, you get the gist. But number 1, I was pretty invested. I really liked it. And then what were the next 2 called? Blood Rose and Wolfsbane. Did I say this is by Andrea Creamer? Anyways, that's who it's by. But yeah, I didn't care so much for the next 2. I gave them both 3 stars. And if I remember correctly, it's because the romance got a little bit too stupid. I think it was one of those cases where she picked what I believed was the wrong choice, and I didn't understand why. I'm trying to think of an example of this without spoiling things, but for example, like, if so, let's just say you were you had the choice of someone who's been your best friend forever and they love you to death and they'll do anything for you and you get along on every basis, or some guy that's just absolutely awful to you, treats you like crap, but he's really good looking. Like, the choice is obvious, go for the best friend guy, you know what I mean? And it was I feel like it was one of those situations, and I got really annoyed with what she was picking. But again, I got rid of the books, I'm pretty sure. I don't think I have them anymore. If I do, I can't see them right now. Yeah, and I just got over it. I don't think the werewolf thing went where I wanted it to either, if I remember correctly. So yeah, disappointing. Next is a slightly more recent one, but not as recent as the one that's inspired all this, saving that one till last. Don't know why, I just decided I am. And that is The Sin Eater's Daughter by Melinda Salisbury. Yeah? Yeah, anyways. So the first book I was really invested in. I can remember this one so clearly. Like, I was so invested in the romance. And I just wanted them to be happy, and I was like really shipping them, and I was invested. And then the second book came out, The Sleeping Prince, and it just didn't go where I wanted it to. If I remember correctly with this one, it didn't follow any of the same characters as number 1, and it wasn't until the third one that you kind of got back to the original characters as well as the characters that were in number 2. Yes, that's right, and the third one's called The Scarecrow Queen, and I enjoyed that one a little bit more. I gave that one 4 stars, so the series did slightly redeem itself. But I remember being very frustrated with the second book because it just wasn't going where I wanted it to, and whilst there were elements of it that I liked, like I didn't give it 1 star, it wasn't the worst, it just kind of went off in a completely direction that I wasn't expecting, and yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much. And not to spoil anything, but I didn't get what I wanted for some of the characters, which still kind of irks me to this day. Yeah, read the series, you'll know what I'm on about, but I was very invested in number 1. Like, I truly believed number 1 was like a new favourite, and it was going to be a series I was going to absolutely adore, and then it just didn't go there for me. And then the last one that I have just recently finished, and I'm again pretty upset about this one. In fact, this is the one I'm most upset about, but probably because it's the most raw and recent. And that is that I read the Diabolique by Sj Kincaid, and I loved it. Loved it. Gave it 5 stars. Sci-Fi. I'm in. And this, I just realised I didn't explain what the Sin Eater's Daughter is about. It's about a girl whose mother, her job is to eat people's sins, which is kind of where you prepare a feast that you think covers all of the sins you've made in life, and if she eats the whole feast, you're like redeemed from your sins. And her daughter, she's had a daughter who everyone believes is able to poison people, and so the royal family take her in so that she can become their executioner. Yeah, anyways, so there's that. Back to the Diabolique Sci-Fi series. This is kind of like a clone kind of situation, but not exactly. It's where we have genetically modified human beings to the point where we can make like superhumans that are called the Diabolique. They're super strong, they're really intelligent, logical, but cold. They don't have really any emotions or anything. And our main character, Nemesis, is a Diabolique, and she ends up being sent to a royal event in the place of the human that she is supposed to protect. And I loved the first one. Like, I'm thinking about it now, I'm so invested. And I sped through it. I remember like flying through it, so exciting for the next book, waiting for it to come out. I finally got round to the Empress this, it had been last month, and it just kind of broke my heart, because I gave it 3 stars. Again, it's disappointing. It's not hate reads, disappointing. But it just, here's my problem. I'm trying not to spoil it, but things that I wanted to happen between certain characters have kind of been like crapped all over. And then also it was very cartoon villain and very, we need to solve this issue, great, this should hopefully help solve it, well no, haha, and now there's this and this and this, and it was kind of a very much, it wasn't a plot that kind of felt natural and flowed nicely. It was like here's this step, 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 here's this step. And it was very frustrating. Kind of like the analogy I gave it when I was describing it before to someone else was, it's like working in customer services and a customer makes a huge complaint and you work really hard to get it resolved and you send them your reply and it's like, you know, gold, and you've done everything you possibly could for them, and they're like, thank you for that, but now I want to complain about this. And they keep, no matter how many times you resolve their complaint, they keep adding on a new complaint, and it's getting frustrating because it's like, I can never win. That is what reading that book felt like to me. So there's a little insight in my job. But yeah, I'm just upset because I expected so much and I didn't get it, and things that I liked about it were kind of ruined by this, haha, now this has gone wrong. And and I get that, you know, it's a series, so they had to keep the plot going and things, but I just feel like it could have been paced better, and I feel like there shouldn't have been so many, like I say, cartoon villainry haha moments. And yeah, I'm really upset. I am genuinely really upset about this. I will read, I believe the last one's called The Nemesis. Is it free? I hope it's free. I'll read it because I'm kind of hoping that this has that like second book syndrome that people talk about, where the middle book in a trilogy kind of has to just keep the plot going but isn't really that integral because this author's promised a trilogy. I'm hoping it's kind of one of those situations and I'm gonna love number 3, but I'm upset, guys. Like, I'm upset. I really just wanted to read more of the political intrigue. I'll say that. That's kind of what's... It's more action and like goodies versus baddies sort of thing than it is the political intrigue of what do we do with this Diabolique in this situation. You know what? Do you know, if you've read it, hopefully you understand what I'm saying, because I feel like I'm doing a bad job of explaining it. But yeah, that book, I read it last month and got annoyed. So yeah, that's just a little insight into some books where I loved the first one and then it had disappointing sequels somewhere along the line in the series. Let me know if you've read any of these and you agree, or if you have any that you think I would agree on too. You know, I did have some other candidates where I rated the first one like 4 stars and then the last ones in the series or whatever like 2 or 3. But I didn't feel like that was as passionate as the ones where I started on 5 stars, so I didn't include them in this. But yeah, let's talk about books. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you again soon. Bye!